Well, good morning, good evening, or good night, depending on where you are in the world today. This is our very first live with Unprecedented with Raine and Stephan on the Wellness Lifestyle Conference. So we're very excited to have this opportunity to be hosted by the WLC for our podcast, which we've been going for a while now, haven't we? We've got quite a number of episodes under our belts. Yeah, been really, really
We
cool.
do. And
Yeah.
I want to just throw a shout out as well to WLC, for
Oh,
having us on live because, what a wonderful way to connect with people.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you for that. Really appreciate it. But okay, I'm really excited for today's topic. Now, for first of all, for our audience who doesn't know us, um, Rain, of course, has been a speaker on the Wellness Lifestyle Conference in the past. I think some people will know me. I'm the guy who does a lot of the interviews with the speakers. But Rain and myself met when I did her interview some time back, and we decided to start hosting a podcast together on just various topics in the esoteric realm. And it's so far, I'm loving every single episode we do. It really is just incredible. Rain, your insights just
Just about
make my
every
time.
second.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like the stuff we share and that we get to express, I think is just so incredibly beautiful. But today's topic really is, I mean, I say that about every topic, don't I? But today's
Yeah,
topic is
pretty
really,
much.
it's a big one. I won't say near and dear to my heart, but it's definitely something that is of interest to me, deep interest, because it's something that I have difficulty with. So our topic is trusting universal law. Now, specifically, when we talk about that, we're talking about it in response to the law of attraction in this particular instance. Now, Rain, I'm going to say something and then maybe you can hop in with your own insights or what you've experienced. I find it really challenging, this particular one, because even though I know it is a universal law, I mean, it's right there in the Bible. Keep on
Mhm.
asking and it will be opened to you, right? It's right there.
Right.
It's not a case, oh, well, maybe, or if you, yeah, no, it will happen. I have such difficulty trusting that, and I'll ask for something and then immediately start almost doubting that it's going to happen. I'll be like, well, you see, it's not meant for me. Or something will happen. I'll be like, well,
Mhm.
obviously that's just not going to happen for me. That is something that I've struggled with. What has been your experience?
Well, I'm sure a lot of our listeners can relate to that because part of that is our evolutionary growth in the esoteric realm. And
Mm,
we all go through that struggle for either periods of time or we can go through that for a really long time. And, that was something that I really questioned. For example, in my book, Sight Beyond Sight, I do share a lot of experiences I had that almost felt like, really quite honestly, Stefan, that it was just like out of my control. For example,
mm,
like when you hit black ice, like the opening story in my book is about me hitting black ice
yeah.
and just seeing my life flash before my eyes. Me and my pups were in the vehicle with me. And so when you have experiences like that, it really does shake your foundation,
Mm,
because even if you believe whatever your belief system is, and like you say, that you trust fully, how do you even get through? How do you even wade through an experience like that to have it make sense to you, to your spirit, to your mind, and your emotions,
mm,
right? So yes, of course, I've struggled with that, and anyone that reads my book will feel that pain in my book at times where I've shared experiences I've been through and the struggle through that process and coming out the other side. And there's a lot of ways that, and of course, we're going to touch on as many as we can today, but there's a lot of ways that we can remedy that. So
absolutely.
if
And
you could maybe just give us an example of something maybe that you've had in your lifetime where you felt that happen for you.
that. So I've had a situation, and I think this is why I kind of chose this topic. So first of all, Rain actually asked me to pick today's topic, because I usually ask
Yes,
her to do
because
it.
I just felt it's so weird because usually I pick the topics and all of a sudden it just came to me. I feel like you have something that you want to say. It was almost like I could feel your energy right when we got off our last episode, and you were just sitting with me, and it felt like you needed to express your voice. It was so strange. And I must have been feeling your energy. And so that's when I messaged you and I said, hey, how about you pick it this week? Give me a challenge to to
So I'll
grow
tell you
in.
what was really strange from my side of it was when I got your message saying, "Hey, would you like to pick our next topic?" I immediately knee-jerk reaction because I wasn't even thinking. I started typing out, "No, no, it's seriously fine. You can pick it." And I got halfway through the sentence and I suddenly realized, Stephan, you're not being present. Reread the
Mhm.
message. And I deleted it. And then I was like, well, okay, maybe if I did want to pick a topic, how am I even going to, like this? Already I was getting anxiety. I'm going to pick the wrong topic. And literally, not even a second later, the topic just came into my
Oh,
mind.
yeah.
And I was like, where did that even come from? It wasn't even like I thought about it. All that whole process that I just described actually
Yeah.
happened. It felt like a split second that this
Wow.
whole
That's
all just came
amazing.
through. And I was like, it's trusting universal law that I need
Yeah.
to, that's the
Well, we
topic we need to
definitely
discuss.
know that the divine was working in that then, right? I mean, just in
Absolutely.
both of us and that whole interplay of how it happened, we can feel
Absolutely.
that, right? And we
Because
felt it
I
in those
was,
moments.
for sure, I was so ready to just be like, no, it's fine. Like, I'm not that
Just you
interested.
do
And
it.
like, yeah, you're really good at it. Why should I? And then when I stopped, I was like, okay, well, what do I even want to talk about? And it immediately came through. I was like, right, that's what needs to be the topic. So for me, and when I thought about after I sent the message,
Mhm.
I thought about why is this resonating so deeply with me? And I realized it's because one of the struggles that I've had in my life, and I think I have spoken about this in previous podcasts in various iterations, is I've always wanted to have a certain level of, call it wealth. Okay. I have no desire to be a billionaire. I don't want to be Oprah or Bill Gates or any of that. Like that
Mhm.
doesn't interest me.
Right.
Okay. But I've always had this thing that I did want to be wealthy and really wealthy in that I can afford whatever I want whenever I want it. If I want to buy a new home, I don't need to look at the price tag. I can just purchase it. Do I
Mhm.
want to go away for the weekend and take 10 friends with me? I can just say,
That's
guys,
right.
pack a bag and a passport and let's go. Don't ask
Mhm.
me about the price. It's already paid for. It's done. And
Yeah.
I've always had that in me that that is something that I wanted to get to.
Mhm.
And Rain, it just wouldn't happen.
Mhm.
I'd go like up and down in terms of what my income would be, in terms of what I also felt I was able to earn.
Mhm.
That was a big one. Because I would go to coaches. I'd be like, this is what I want for my life,
Mhm.
and yet it's just not happening. And one guy I spoke to, not a coach, but he does. I don't know if you ever heard of Art of Living. It's
Yes.
a You have, okay. So for our listeners who haven't heard of it, it's an incredible, essentially a breathwork course, but it's so much more than that. And I do recommend that most people who haven't heard of it just look it up. I think you'll find it quite interesting. But the teacher there came to me the one day after a session, and he says, "I have a feeling that you are going to be a multimillionaire." And
Mm.
I'd never spoken to him about my goals and
You're
aspirations and everything.
right.
And I just looked at him and he goes, and I don't mean a millionaire in rands because the rand is not particularly strong, so that doesn't really count for much. But he goes, I'm talking about a millionaire in in a stable currency.
Mhm.
And I went, okay. He says, but I have a distinct feeling you're going to have to burn off a lot of karma to get there. And then he says to me, and I think that most of that karma is not something that you have to atone for, but something that you think you have to atone for.
I really like that. I
Yeah,
really like that point.
it hit me really hard. And I mean, I was a young man and I didn't really take it to heart too much. But I went through life, and a lot of my friends then started to pick up on the fact that I do this thing where I go into not so most people go into victim mode, I go into
Mhm,
martyr mode,
mhm.
where I will cause issues that I need to sacrifice myself
That's right.
for in order to move forward.
And we can
And even
also
my
oscillate, right? We can oscillate
yes,
back and forth from, being a martyr to being a victim, right? This
absolutely,
is
because
this is all based on, well, for one, conditioning in our lives and the messages that we've received. They could have been
yes,
harmfully intentive by others,
hmm,
such as jealousy or fear inspired, causing us to have guilt, or
for
those
sure.
feelings of lack of self-worth. So it might not have been you yourself, like he said. It's 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 something
It's
that
a program that
it
we're
is
running.
programmed. Yes.
Yes. And that's exactly what it ended up being. And it's now gotten to the point where finally things are starting to shift for me. And I think we spoke about this a bit in our last episode when we were talking just about being able to be true to yourself,
Hmm.
right? Which
Hmm.
is it's so difficult to do because where do you end and where does your conditioning and your programming start? And what's the
Right.
actual difference there? But for me now, when I wake up in the morning and I feel my purpose burning really strongly, and I can see that that wealth that I've always wanted is
Hmm.
literally right there, and it seems so simple to attain.
Hmm.
I then go, but why wasn't it there before? You know,
Right.
why did it take so long for me to get to a point where these things seem to be falling into the right place? And it's literally what my next note was that I jotted down before today's podcast, which is when we ask for something, we have to also trust that it will come, but we have to trust
Hmm.
that it will come when we are ready to receive it.
That's right. So,
And yeah, please
oh, well,
continue.
finish your point, because you're just inspiring me, because I just.
No, no, please. I was just going to say that that is something that I have to come to grips with because it's exactly what that
Mhm,
gentleman said to me. He goes, "You have to burn all this karma, but
mhm.
it's not actual
It's
karma. It's
no.
self-imposed."
Right.
And if I may just share one other thing,
Absolutely.
I spoke to one of our joint contacts, Michael, and he did a reading for me, and he goes, he's actually the one who picked up immediately on the martyr syndrome. And he goes, Stephan, it's a past life. You you didn't even do anything wrong, but you decided to take responsibility for it.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
that has come into this life. He goes, does that resonate? And I'm like, good heavens, does that ever resonate with me? Because
mhm,
since yay big, I remember in grade one, someone else would do something wrong. And I
mhm,
would walk forward and go, no, I could have done something to stop it. Therefore, I should be punished too. I
mhm.
could have mitigated the situation. I'm as to blame as everybody else. And
Right.
I'm not, right?
It's
It's that,
so funny because I in grade 1, I also had an experience, and I remember sitting. We had a bookshelf along the back. I remember it was a long bookshelf, and everybody got to go and have reading time. So everyone is picking a book, and some people are going back to their desk, and some people are sitting on the floor. And I'm sitting on the floor, and I've got like 3 or 4 books all laid out all around me. And I'm looking at them, and I'm just like marveling, right?
right.
I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Like it's like I won the lottery, right?
Hmm.
I was picking up on the energy, and I was looking at the pictures, and I was just in my elements. And didn't the teacher come by and basically scold me and tell me to only pick one book? So imagine what that's doing to a little child who is,
Yeah.
back then we didn't have kindergarten. So I'm dating myself a little bit, but we didn't have kindergarten. So
Same.
I was, my mom taught me my ABCs and my numbers and all of that at home. And then we just went into grade 1.
Yeah.
So to me, all of a sudden, all of this was just magical to me because I hadn't experienced that. So just that very strict way of relaying information to me cut off that awakening or like awe-inspiring feeling that I had when I had all those books out. So imagine all throughout my life how that affected me. Maybe in little minuscule ways, but it still affects us. And that is
Of
the thing
course.
is like you say, it isn't that sometimes that we do anything really wrong because, quote, they say there is no right or wrong, there's only
Right.
choices. And we're learning, right? We're in a learning school, right?
Absolutely.
But those experiences do affect us. And, yourself in The Secret, they always say, what we attract. And, psychologists will say, it's what you allow. So if you're permitting someone else to take your power from you and all of these things, and we gather this information and we go, yes, that is true. I can think of an experience that I had when I did give my power away, or I did, shut down my voice
Right.
and not say something when I really felt like I wanted to. So there are circumstances and situations where we can probably all connect with something like that. But what it all also comes back to is we need to give ourselves permission to express and expand. And when we do that, we now become a different person.
Mm.
The example I was going to give was it's like when I'm preparing my puppy's supper, or you could say if you're preparing your child's dinner.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's my puppies right now. So I'm preparing their dinner last night, and they're all sitting on the floor moaning and groaning and grunting, and because they're
Right.
hungry, right?
Yes.
And especially my little girl who's diabetic, because with diabetes you need to eat
Yeah. Yes.
regularly and you need to eat in little bits sometimes.
Yes.
But you really have to watch the signs, and know when to give them a treat or whatever, because they need something in their belly. But it was funny because I was preparing everything and I just said to them, all right, you guys, I know you're hungry. It's coming. Relax, calm down. And I kept talking to them. And all of a sudden it was just like, wow, there it was. It's the same with us, with
Exactly.
God, the universe. You know,
Yep.
we need to trust that whatever we've asked for is being prepared. The way is being prepared. The circumstances and situations are being prepared. Let's just take, a relationship, for example. Maybe someone hasn't been in a relationship for, a number of years, and they're asking every night, oh, when is my princess coming in, or when is my Prince Charming coming in? What it is we need to ask, yes, and then give it, surrender it, and give that request up. It's almost like
Yes.
a putting it on the table, putting it on the altar, and saying, I am asking for this, but I also trust that you are going to bring the right person to me at the right time. Because right now it could be that you're not quite as ready as you think you are. Right? There's things
Very
that
true.
you need to get into place. There's things that you need to accomplish. It could be that that person is being prepared. Maybe they've just, recently gotten out of a relationship and they're not healed yet from that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes time. Maybe one of you needs to relocate to be able to find each other, or to go away on a business trip. It could be that you're starting a new business, or a new business is going to be presented to you, and then all of a sudden you're going on a business trip, and that's how you end up meeting them. So it's just about trusting that it's going to come in the way that it's meant to come. Does that make
Yep,
sense? Okay.
it does. It
Yeah.
absolutely does. But I want to circle back to something you said at the outset because it ties in so beautifully with what you just said about it coming when it's meant to come and us maybe not being ready for it. Is, and I'm not trying to put your teacher down because I'm sure that wasn't the intention.
Oh,
But by the
probably
same,
not.
yeah, of course, she was probably just like, well, she has a job to do. She's got 30 kids in her class, follow instruction, right?
Right.
But by the same token,
Hmm.
it then also, because when you had your 3 books out in front of you, you were in abundance mindset, right? Because you had a
That's
lot.
right.
Now you're being told, no, you
Hmm.
can only have one. Lack mindset, right? I can only
That's
choose
right.
one, right? So now
Hmm.
when you're asking the universe for stuff, it can be very easy to be impatient because you don't realize that there's such an abundance out there, right? And I'm talking about myself here
Hmm.
mostly because I've done the same thing where I've been put in a lack mindset. And then when you ask for things, you're not really sure if it can come, if it will come, because you've been told so often by people, no, you can't have that. This is not meant for you. You need to
Right.
have this instead, you know? And the universe doesn't work like that. The universe gives you exactly what you want when you are ready
That's
for
right.
it,
Yeah.
which is, I
And the
think, just
universe is so abundant. We can have, it's like you're right, we can have that abundance every day, all the time.
absolutely,
We just don't
absolutely.
realize that.
And this then comes into the other little note that I wrote down, which is, and something that one of my friends actually taught me, which is, I think, just so beautiful, is she refuses to settle. So if she asks something from the universe, and she
Hmm.
used a very simple example. She said, I asked for it. There was something that she wanted to do, but she wasn't quite sure if what was being offered to her was from the universe or if she was just being a little bit silly about this choice. So she made a request and she said, right, if this is a gift from the universe, I would like to see, and it was a very specific yellow flower, I forget the name, very specific yellow
Mm.
flower. And she says that day she saw a bunch of yellow flowers, but none of them were the specific one. And I said, but it obviously that's the sign from the universe. She's like, no, that was not what I asked for. So I went back to the universe and I said, thank you very much for what you have given me, but it was not what I asked for. So I'm going to take that as a no, unless I see this specific yellow flower. She says literally an hour later, she opens her Instagram and about 4 posts on her Instagram feed of people who she barely ever sees show up. All this
Hmm.
one flower, yellow, this
Wow.
particular
That's so
type,
beautiful.
etc. And that just brought it home for me that, like you said, the universe is so abundant that it is perfectly capable of giving you exactly what you. Oh,
You got it. That's
I just
wonderful.
got something because I've been wanting something. This is now outside of my career. How vulnerable shall we be today, Stefan? Let's be fully vulnerable. I've been not I have been dating. I have been in a semi relationship for quite some time, but it's an open relationship for various reasons, which I shan't go into for the other person's privacy as well. But we've both been saying that I really need to get a primary partner. And I've just never been that interested in finding someone. I've been quite happy on
Hmm.
my own,
Hmm.
not really that interested. And about 3 weeks ago, I started putting it out into the universe and started exactly, in fact, this the way I got my ex-girlfriend was I just started asking people, do you know someone who matches the following description? And I literally would write a description up, like
Hmm. Yeah,
she
that's what
has
they
the
say to
following.
do. Yeah.
yeah, she has the following hair, the following characteristics, this is what she likes, da 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember at the time I was working in corporate and I walked around. We had 40 people in our office, and I walked around and put a note on every person's desk going, "Have you seen this woman? If you
Oh
have,
my
please call
goodness.
Stephan." And people go like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "No, that's my future girlfriend. So if you could help me out, if you see someone who matches that description, send her my way."
Mm-hmm.
And I found someone who didn't quite match the description. And I bring that particular point up because what's happening now is I'm putting it out against the universe and I'm looking for someone. These are the characteristics I want, although I haven't been as definitive as I was before.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was saying to you, like the universe is abundant enough that it is able to give you exactly what you request.
Yeah.
And that was why I went, oh, because I was perfectly ready to settle.
Right. And if we don't quite, like, if we're not quite where we need to be in order for things to be set up for us, the universe will step in and make sure that we get done what we need to get done in order to move to the next step. And that involves also, like, includes also unhappy things that we go through and
Yeah.
difficult things that we go through,
Yeah.
losses and all of that stuff. The other day I was doing some meditation and I was connecting with the divine, with our supreme creator.
Mm.
And he brought me up, like, I talk about this grid because, a lot of people talk about the grid being only the earth grid and that we're in this matrix and that we're trapped, basically. So right away, what does that do to us in our energy? It shuts us down.
Right.
And so every time that God has revealed it to me, he's shown me a grid pattern, but that it just spills over, like, outside of the earth into the universe and
It's the
up
whole
into the
universe. Yeah.
universe, right? So he takes me on this journey again the other day, and we're up looking down at the earth, and I'm looking all across the earth. And we both know that things are difficult right now for us across the world. And we're not just talking about globally, things are difficult in
Mm.
a dark way. We are also going through a shifting. Mother Earth is going through a shifting. We're moving into that fifth dimension. So right now we're basically, leaving that third dimensional realm, and we're moving, if you want to just picture it like a tunnel, moving through the fourth dimension. And so there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
change coming in, right? There's a lot of good happening and there's a lot of not so good happening. So I look down. He motions for me to look down, and I look all across the earth, and I can see almost like little pockets of fire all over, like just all over the earth. And I mean, that could be, I reflected on it, and that could be, yeah, there have been a lot of unexplained fires, even though it is fire
Actually, yes.
season in a
Yeah.
lot of areas in the world. There are a lot of unexplained fires that have happened,
Mm.
and multitudes of them. And I was listening to a podcast yesterday that is sharing information about the earthquakes that are happening and the earth groaning that
Mm.
we've experienced in the past and is happening again. So I thought, wow, this is really interesting. How do we fix this, God? Like, how are we going to repair this? And all of a sudden I saw like little like little snowflakes going down all across the earth in between all these fires. And when I looked at all of these snowflakes, they all turned into angels. And I was like, oh, wow, that's it. And I knew right away it tied into our theme. And I was like, that's why I was shown this, because what we're being shown is that, yes, we are important as a human being, and as human beings on the earth, we are important. And it is important for us to be the action
Mm-hmm.
and to share our voices and to do what we can. But also, those angels are there for us to lean on, and
Oh,
they're there to
absolutely.
help us, and they are with us. We just need to open our eyes,
Oh, so true.
right?
So true.
It was just beautiful. It was so simple and so beautiful, and that was the end of it, you know. So it's showing us that trust needs to be there.
Mm,
I don't know if you're familiar with the scripture in Philippians 3. I do not presume to have already achieved the goal, but I run towards the goal, that I may, I persevere and run
yes.
towards the goal, that I may, basically that I may achieve, and that I may accomplish what it is that I'm being called to accomplish. Right. And I think that's the space that we can get into as a functioning
Oh,
piece that helps us
mm,
to know that once we put that out there, then we need to lay in that trust. We don't sit stagnant. We still keep on walking forward, like you putting the pictures out, sharing the picture with people. This is who I'm looking for, right? You're still putting those action pieces forward, and you're taking the steps, and you're having faith, but you're letting it rest within you, which is
mm.
crucial to not backstepping into self-doubt, and not allowing things that others say to impede our progress.
Oh, yes. Yes. I'm being moved to share something with you and with our audience as well, by extension. But what you just said about, persevering in that race that we haven't finished yet, but also knowing that we have the angels or whatever people want to call them
Mhm.
to lean
Guides.
back on, guides,
Mhm.
yeah, to lean back on and work with. Because I remember when I was a lot younger and I went through a phase where, I mean, I've been suffering, not so much anymore, but I've been suffering with depression for quite a number of years. And every so now and then, it gets really bad where I become suicidal and all the rest of it.
Mhm.
And I remember one year I was driving down the highway and I was heading home and I was just bawling my eyes out. And I said a prayer and I said, if you're out there,
Mhm.
I need help. I need everyone who can help me to come through and help me right now.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I didn't feel anything, nothing changed, nothing shifted. And that weekend, I was at my ex boss's house doing some work.
Mhm.
And they called me up for lunch. They had a friend staying with them from the UK who happened to be a Reiki master as well as a channeler. And when I walked up into the kitchen, she looked at me with this funny expression. She didn't say anything. She just greeted and said, "Hi, how are you? No, I'm so and so, and blah, blah, blah." And then she said, "Would I be open to a Reiki session?" And I said, "Yeah, why not?" Like,
I'll give it a
I said,
shot. Yeah.
"Yeah, but whatever." And after the Reiki session, she says, "Do you have anything you'd like to share?" And I said, "No, not really. But thank you. Like that was, I suppose, good. Didn't really feel
Mhm.
anything or whatever. I just felt slightly better, essentially." She looks at me and she says, "I've got something that I want to share with you." She says, "I'm able to see spirits and entities and that sort of thing, um, different kinds." She says, whether they be negative or light or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
She says, "I've never seen one human being with that many angels around them as you have. Not once." She says, "In my entire life, I've
Wow.
never seen," she's like, "a throng. When you walked up the stairs," she says, "and jeepers are they protective."
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm getting a bit emotional. But so I looked at her and I went, "Okay, but then why aren't they helping me? You know,
Mhm.
nothing's changing, nothing's shifting." And she goes, they are helping you in that they're supporting you. But by the same token, you have all the power you need to shift whatever you need to shift in your
That's right.
life. They're not going to do it for you. And if they did, that would be an egregious breach of
Yeah.
free will. And I just looked at it and I went, oh, okay. She goes, yeah, that's the long and short of it.
Well, we do have the power within us, and it's
Absolutely.
just, I've had those moments of knowing that, and it's just to be able to retain it, and
Mm,
to because what happens is almost like we forget, right? We forget, or like you said, we go into depression. So, being a
hmm.
survivor myself from childhood abuse, it's been difficult for me in my adult life in the sense that you work so hard on yourself for many, many years, sometimes 10, 20 years. Does that ever go away? No, it doesn't ever fully go
No.
away, right? So the thing of it is that we can learn from that, and we can carry that with us. And sometimes it's difficult for others that have been in our lives and that are close to us, family, saying
Hmm.
that to often our friends understand us, right? Because we seem to attract people that we can help each other. But our
Yes.
family, we don't really choose it in the same way, not in this lifetime, right? So we
Right.
we we chose it before we were born, and it by becoming born. But we have our family is our family, and so it's difficult for, say, our parents, our children, our siblings to understand what we've gone through or what we're going through, even though we may be the most compassionate person in the world. They're not us. And so part of that is coming to accept this truth. So when she said to you, I just see so many angels around you. um she's right. They can't cross over that line, right? And so it's about us trusting that they've got our back, that they're with us, we're not alone. And I was going somewhere else with this, so let me just see if I can retrieve it. um I'll come back to it because I know there was another point. But you see where I'm going with all of that. It's
Hmm.
it's that, oh, that's what it was. There it came. So what we have to realize sometimes is that we can't see all the things that could have gone wrong and that could have gone bad. We can't even fathom in this lifetime, I believe, until we cross over and we see how things could have really possibly gone really bad in some situations. Like, let's say a
Hmm.
person's in a verbally abusive relationship, and then that progresses because that person is really not happy with themselves. They're feeling ugly about themselves, and what are they going to do? They're going to project that onto those that they love and care about.
Mm.
I would have to challenge the fact that, when people say when someone's doing that to another person that they don't love them, that may not necessarily be true. It's just that that is their interpretation of love. They don't understand, or they don't know how to love fully in a
Right.
divine capacity. So, then what can happen, right, is we've seen, when people end up going to the shelters and that, how situations become worse and worse and worse, right? And we know also that some people are killed, right, in protecting, trying to protect themselves. So I'm trying to
Yes.
paint a picture for our listeners to try to recognize that, maybe your life is just bland right now and you don't feel like things are going anywhere, and you're not progressing, but really you are, because we never fully know how many times we've been saved over and over again
Absolutely.
in our
Absolutely.
lifetime, right? In our health and our well-being, in situations. So when we can kind of see the flip side of that, then we can go, oh, okay, I need to be, what would the word be? I need to be grateful. I need to be thankful for who I am right now, everywhere I've been, and everything that I'm doing, right? And just have that gratitude within ourselves. I know there's other words, kindness, compassion for ourselves. Often we can have a lot of compassion for others, but we have a difficult time, and a challenge having compassion for ourselves. So taking that time
Absolutely.
for, self-care and just self-care of our spirit, self-care of our body, self-care in our emotions, right? Your walks out in the mountains are
Mm-hmm.
an example of that, right? You take that time.
For
So
sure.
there's a lot of perspectives that we can pull in and we can obtain. It's almost like looking at something from the greatest distance from
Mm-hmm.
ourselves and pulling it in and looking at it, with a different perspective, like a
That's
prism,
exactly it. Yeah,
like a
for
prism.
sure. So I would like to wrap up this episode by actually picking up on something that you just said there around gratitude, because to me that really does filter into the trust aspect.
Hmm.
Being able to trust that the universe really has had our backs throughout our life. We don't know because we didn't get to see how often our path was just slightly nudged in a different
Hmm.
direction to help us avoid something absolutely truly catastrophic. You,
That's
you
right.
just don't know because you don't see it. You don't have the whole picture. So expressing gratitude to that effect, that just you're so grateful that yes, maybe your life is not great right here and now, right? But you can express gratitude that it probably could have been a lot worse if certain entities or beings or God had not intervened in your life. And I
Hmm.
do believe a lot of people say, do you really think that God takes a personal interest in each and every human? Like, yeah, actually, I do. Jesus said he did. So that's what I believe.
Hmm.
Um, but then further to that, it's just the trust that if you can be grateful that you've been steered in the right direction, trust that you have the power to shift it even further into a positive direction, and
Yeah.
then trust that the universe will give you exactly what you've asked for. That's
Part
kind of
part
my.
Yeah, and part of that whole piece, you mentioned honesty on the last chat we were on, and I think maybe that's something
Mm,
that we can venture into maybe next session. But really part of that whole piece is about being honest with yourself, taking
yeah.
that time to be honest with yourself and to sit with your own spirit and your own
Mm-hmm.
soul, rather than being busy with everything that's going on in the world and outside of ourselves, because we do have the know-how, we do have
Mm,
the strength, we do have the ability to create change for ourselves and others,
for sure.
right?
For
But we need to
sure.
sit with that honesty and really connect with um, who we are, what we would like to do, what we would like to see happen, because we do play a role in our own lives, right? And that's super important. And then secondly, the other thing I wanted to mention was, to our listeners, just go online and just Google any, you know, um, life after death experiences. There's all kinds of documentaries out on that and videos, and it's so eye-opening because so many of these
Mm,
people have died on the operating table, have had accidents and gone into a coma, gone to the other side, and they've had experiences with universal life. And this will help them to open their spirit a little bit more so
right.
that they can receive the information a little bit better. Because sometimes, in our mind, like we conceive things a certain way in our mind. And so we become
Mm,
fixed. And then we can't be open to, to what is possible. And so
absolutely.
it all ties into your topic of trust, right? is
For
is
sure.
we need to develop that with ourselves and with our supreme creator, right? So
Couldn't agree more.
yeah.
Rain, as always, such a powerful discussion. And I feel like, as I mean, we say this every week. So for our listeners on WLC, you don't know this, but we do. We say this every week. We could go for hours.
We might have to take a coffee break, but
Yeah, I think we will. Actually, maybe next time we'll do like just a chat and have coffee brewing in the background.
I think
Sounds
so.
like a plan.
Thank you
But
so much, Stephan. And,
thank
you know,
you,
like you say,
Raine.
as always, wonderful, and can't wait to see what our next topic is about.
It's gonna be a doozy as always, I'm sure. Raine, have a wonderful day further. Thank you so much for your time. To our listeners, please do get in touch with Raine if you are looking for somebody to assist you as a coach or a guide in the spiritual aspects. And do be sure to reach out about her book as well, Sight Beyond Sight. It's really a great read. Her contact details are in the description as always. Thank you so much again. And till next week, we have been unprecedented with Raine and Steph. Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye, everyone.